Hey everybody, Tim Anderson here, aka Renfill, and you got me back. You got me back for another rant about Rings of Power. I thought I was done after the Vanity Fair piece that came out last week, and I ripped on that, and then I kind of mind boggled at that ridiculous trailer that came out during the Super Bowl. I thought I was done, and then yesterday, somebody sent me a link to the article that we're going to be talking about today, more specifically the Vanity Fair piece that came out on the 14th, where the showrunners dive into more stuff and admit this is important. They admit that they don't have the rights to the material around the second age of Middle Earth, which they are basing their show around, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. We're going to dive in, we're going to talk about that today. But before we do, this is the part where I say if you're new here and you like the video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so that you don't miss anything that goes on here on YouTube. I do a lot of different stuff. There's also a Discord channel if you want to join that. It's down below. We also have a gaming community. Ironically enough, we're playing Lord of the Rings online right now. So if you want to come hang out with us in Discord, check the links down there. Let's dive into this piece. So there's a few things we want to talk about here. We've got the Amazon Rings of Power article that came out on the 14th for Vanity Fair. It's another Vanity Fair piece where they talk about some things. But what I really wanted to dive into is this piece from boundingintocomics.com, which has, in my mind, one of the best takes on this. And you also noticed at the beginning I had my Saul Zaentz article open. We're going to be talking about some of the rights to the what's being sold recently and complications. There's some fun stuff that we're going to dive into today. But specifically, though, what I want to talk about first and foremost is that the Rings of Power showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay admitted in their recent Vanity Fair piece they do not have a number of rights depicting events from the Second Age of the Lord of the Rings world. Speaking with Vanity Fair, Payne revealed that we only have the rights to The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, The Return of the King, The Appendices, and The Hobbit. And that's that. We don't have the rights to The Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, History of Middle Earth, or any of those other books. And that is because the Tolkien family and the Tolkien estate has held on to those rights. It's very tricky. And even though, yes, and I covered this the other day, Saul Zaentz is in fact selling its entire library of rights to the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit films and gaming rights and everything else. I mentioned this the other day in a video. This was on the, I believe on the 9th of February is when this was announced. Um, I had mentioned this, but what's interesting is that Saul Zaentz doesn't actually include the rights to the Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, and Middle Earth. They have matching rights should the Tolkien estate decide to ever make movies or content based on these two compilation of Tolkien writings. And to date, they have not wanted to sell those rights to anyone, which begs the question, if you're going to make a show about the Second Age, wouldn't you want the rights to the material that's already been written so that you could make an accurate adaptation? No, 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 no. We're going to throw that out the window because as the showrunners say, McKay goes on to say, there's a version of everything we need for the Second Age in the books that we have the rights to. And as long as we're painting within those lines and not contradicting something we don't have the rights to, there's a lot of leeway and room to dramatize and tell some of the best stories that Tolkien ever came up with. And this goes back to the just the ego of these guys, which was what I said in my first video on the subject. We're going to write the novel that Tolkien never wrote. Well, here's the thing. Tolkien already did write huge amounts of content around the Second Age, including hundreds of characters who can be used to fill the show. And instead, they've gone off and said, well, we don't have the rights to all that. We don't want to spend the money on the rights to all that. We're just going to work with the appendices and we're going to just fill in the blanks. And we're going to make a bunch of new characters that represent the characters from the Silmarillion and the Book of Unfinished Tales and all this stuff. We're going to make our own version of those characters, but we can't use those characters, so we have to make our own adaptations of those characters to make that story happen. This is the stupidest thing ever. And they actually say this here in their article, and I may have already mentioned this, but one would wonder why in the world someone would endeavor to bring to live action the Second Age when you don't have the rights to key materials that document the Second Age. I love that right there. I love that fact. Um, they go on to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff in this article on Bounding Into Comics, but you can obviously go read the piece over at Vanity Fair. Links are going to be down in the description below if you want to actually go read this in full. It is even in my mind this new interview with the showrunners is even more damning than the reveal that they made the other day about things, which is just ridiculous. One of the things, and I am going to talk on this because I love the fact that they actually quote the appendices here, because these guys talk about how, well, we're using the appendices and we're basing our take on the second world off of that. So why doesn't your dwarven woman, your dwarven princess, why doesn't she have a beard? Like, I could care less. I've said this in all of my videos. I do not care about the color of the actors and actresses that are playing these characters. Skin color does not matter. They are actors interpreting a role. Other people are out there saying, yeah, but, if she was living underground, she wouldn't have dark skin because, you need sunlight. But I don't care. The point that people need to be focusing on is if they're pulling from the appendices, which they say that they are, Dis was the daughter of Thrain, too. She was the only dwarf woman named in these histories. It was said by Gimli that there are few dwarf women, probably no more than a third of the whole people. They seldom walk abroad except at great need. They are in voice and appearance, and in garb, if they must go on a journey, so like unto the dwarf men that the eyes and ears of other peoples cannot tell them apart. This has given rise to the foolish opinion among men that there are no dwarf women, and that dwarves grow out of stone. Dis does not look like any of the other dwarves the show featured, another clear contradiction on their part. I highly agree. Um, I've mentioned this before, and I've commented on why does this dwarf not have a beard? Why does she not have a beard? Why do the elves not have long hair? What's going on with all this stuff? And the reason is because, once again, they have shown, the showrunners have shown that they clearly do not care. They do not care about the source material. They don't respect the source material. They don't have anything that they want to actually cover from the source material. They just want to make their own version. And there's a part in here from the article. I gotta find it real quick. Um, they talk about the stars. I gotta find it. I gotta scroll down here real quick. Excuse me, really quick. As I find, yeah. We took all these little clues and thought of them as stars in the sky that we then connected to write the novel that Tolkien never wrote about the Second Age. You idiots! Tolkien already wrote a book. Literally. He already wrote a book about the Second Age, and there are other compilations that Christopher Tolkien put together that completely detail the Second Age. Now, I will give them this. There has never been a narrative novel put together of the Second Age. That I can grant them because the Silmarillion it's a telling of various tales, but it's not a novelization like The Lord of the Rings was, or like a traditional novel like you would get if you read Mistborn or something. So I will give them that, but that's not in my mind an excuse to claim that you can take all these little clues and write the novel that Tolkien never wrote about. Because the problem is, they're talking that Tolkien never wrote about the Second Age. He did in great detail. He came up with this vast backstory which has hundreds of characters that you can pull from, and instead you decided we don't need that. We're going to take the appendices, which only mentions a few of the characters, only the main Galadriel, Glorfindel, Elrond, so on and so forth, and throwing everything else out the window because you're going to take these little clues, these stars in the sky, and we're going to connect our own dots and make our own version. This continues to point towards a story that I'm not going to care about because they obviously don't care about Tolkien's work. They don't care about that rich world that he built, the history that was put into this. They don't care about it. They're making their own version based on a very tiny little snippet at the end of Return of the King, when they have all of this other stuff that they could cover that actually does cover the Second Age that they could use as the adaptation, but they're not going to do it because they don't want to deal with trying to get a hold of the rights. They're going to say, well, we got the rights to this, so we're just going to run with that. They make a lot of claims here, like they've got, the full approval of Middle Earth scholars. The one they fired, you mean? I'm not going to go into the Mariana, I think is her name, the new lady who's out there making claims that Tolkien was, a misogynist and we got to fix Tolkien and all this other stuff. By the way, all our social medias are private now. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on there. We're not going to dive into that in this piece. I just will leave this on the note of saying, you don't need to make anything up, guys. The material is already there. Just go out and get the rights for it. You have a bottomless pit of money. Like, Amazon is not starving. Like, you can get the rights. So go forth and get them. Just remake the show. I know that's not going to happen, but that's how I feel right now. I'm just really disappointed that this is the route that they went because I was excited about the show until all these Vanity Fair pieces started coming out, and now we see that they're not actually creating a show about the Second Age. They're creating a version of events that they are completely inventing because they don't actually have the rights to the material that cover the Second Age. So it is what it is. Love to hear your thoughts. Drop them down below, comments, all that good stuff. Like the video if you do. Dislike it if you don't. It's all up to you. Join if you want to. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, all those good things. Join our Discord. Links are down below. And don't forget, you can check out the Patreon for the Weave and the Voids. Patreon.com/Wandering Hermits if you want to know more about what I'm building with my brother and my wife. Stay tuned for more. I'll see everybody in the next episode. It's crazy. It's ridiculous, everybody. Um, every article that comes out on this new show makes me even less and less. It's just it's bad no matter how you paint it. I don't even want to get into the whole woke culture, diversity quotas, all that stuff that a lot of people are commenting on the internet. I'm not going to touch the racism thing because I don't agree with it. Again, I don't think that it matters who plays the characters because it's just an actor in a role. It shouldn't matter. But I do admit that you're taking things that aren't there and making them up. That's not cool, guys. Not cool.